Hey, it is Craig the Pool Man with Pool Specialist. Today we have a short video for you on how to maintain your spa. The most important thing in maintaining your spa is to know what your water chemistry is. And so we're going to show you how to do that. The best way to do it is get an old water bottle that you've got, and then you're going to turn it upside down, go up to about your elbow, and then turn it right side up. Let all the water go into the bottle, bring it back up, and that is going to be your water sample. Now, if you're going to take this to the pool store, and I would definitely recommend that, then you want to make sure that you get it to the pool store within about 45 minutes of taking your sample. And the pool store is actually going to run it through something called a spin lab. And this is what a spin lab looks like. And we're going to go ahead and take our water sample. We're going to run it through the spin lab. And then I'm going to show you how that matches up to actual test strips, something that you can buy rather inexpensively off of internet, Amazon, wherever. And it's very, very important that you get an Accu-Chek brand. We like the Accu-Chek Silver, which is the 7-way test strips, and these test strips are actually manufactured by a pharmaceutical company, so they tend to be a lot more accurate than some of the less expensive versions. So go ahead and spend the extra money to get this. And these are very easy to use. What you're going to do is you're going to take this test strip, you're going to close this bottle up very tightly because the moisture will cause these to go bad. You're going to dip this in here, and then you are going to wait about 15 to 20 seconds, and you're going to match it up to what you have on the side of the bottle. So we're going to show you a picture of this, but basically our total hardness is right where it needs to be. Our chlorine is a bit low, pH is exactly where it needs to be, and our alkalinity is slightly high, and in this case we don't have any cyanuric acid, which is kind of normal for a spa. Now we'll match this against the spin lab and we'll see how accurate that is. I'm going to take this out of the fancy case, and basically I put my sample in here, and now all I have to do is hit my start button, and it will take approximately about a minute for it to actually come up and give you the results. We're going to show you the picture of this. Basically we have no free chlorine. The pH is 7.0, which is a little bit on the low side. We probably want to bring that up a little bit. The alkalinity is 138. That's a little bit on the high side, so we're going to want to bring that down. The hardness is 151, which is a little bit low, but we really don't care about that because we have a fiberglass standalone spa. The CYA is 5. Again, it's low, but as you can see, the spa is covered, so it's not like we're going to get chlorine burnout from the sun. And so we could really care less about how low the CYA is. However, if it gets high, that is a definite concern because that is going to interfere with the chlorine actually functioning correctly. We don't have any copper, we don't have any iron. The phosphates are kind of high because we fill it off of what I'll call city water, and they use what's called orthophosphates to keep the pipes coming into your house and going out of your house, so your supply pipe and your sewage pipe clean. This helps remove and solve all the issues with the piping. And then of course we have no salt in here. This is not a salt spa, so we really don't care about that. And if we compare that against our test strip, we'll show you this picture here, you'll see that it's pretty darn close. And the test strips are really intended more for a rule of thumb. So it's something that you can easily do at home. You don't have to run to the store every time, and you can check your water chemistry and make sure that it's reasonably accurate. You don't have to be dead on with a spa. They have a lot of flexibility, quite honestly. It's a lot easier to maintain a spa than it is a pool. However, it's a very small body of water. And one of the things that you want to realize is if your water chemistry gets way off, then you are going to want to drain and refill your spa. I mean, if you think about this logically, it's kind of disgusting if you have a lot of people in your spa, because at 100 degrees, everybody's sweating. And so you have all that sweat that's coming out and going into the spa. And I'm pretty particular about my spa. I tend to drain it and refill it rather frequently just because of what I call the bio-waste issues. Now, if you go to a resort, the resort actually, there's a calculation of how frequently they have to drain and refill that spa. Do they do it? Probably not. And then you always see in the resort, there's that person that he goes in the spa or she goes in the spa in the morning, and they're drinking beer and cocktails all day long, and they never get out to go to the bathroom. So you just have to wonder about that. And if you go and you test your water in your spa and you find out that your pH and your alkalinity have really dropped, that's actually from the acid in your body. And if you pee in the spa, of course, it accentuates it a whole lot worse. And according to statistics, somewhere in the 80 some odd percentile of people admit that they pee in the pool and they pee in the spas. So I would recommend that you don't do that. I mean, there's always a bathroom close by. These are the spa water chemistry guidelines. You'll notice the first line item is free chlorine. So per most states, the minimum requirement is a chlorine of 2 for a spa. Ideally, you want it 3, maybe 3 to 5, and you want a maximum of 10. So be aware that chlorine burns off a whole lot faster in hot water than it does in cooler water. Combined chlorine, this is something that if you walk into the YMCA and it knocks you on your butt, then you say, wow, there's a lot of chlorine in this pool. Well, that's kind of the nasty stuff. The free chlorine is good, and typically you don't smell it. The combined chlorine is the bad stuff because it's, your body waste combined with the free chlorine, and so it's kind of used up chlorine. And it's very corrosive and it smells nasty. So if you open up your spa cover and it smells like the inside of the YMCA, you probably have a problem. Ideally, you want a very minimal 0 parts per million of combined chlorine, and of course that's ideal. When you start getting up about 0.5 and above is when you start really smelling the combined chlorine. So the way to get rid of this is you shock your spa and you would bring the chlorine to what's called breakpoint chlorination. So by hitting breakpoint chlorination, you're going to go ahead and you're going to free up the combined chlorine, and this will make it a lot more pleasant. And that's why I recommend in the dosing that you actually strive for 10 parts per million. That way, what will happen is you should be able to hit breakpoint chlorination and free up the combined chlorine. And then if you just leave your spa open for a little while, that the free chlorine level of 10 will very quickly go down to a reasonable level of 3 to 5. Next, you have your pH. This is really critical for your eyes and your comfort level of your skin if you're subject to getting rashes, etc. So by state code in most places, the minimum is 7.2, the maximum is 7.8. The ideal level is 7.4, and that is what's going to be the most comfortable to your eye.
Also, that's going to be the one where you're going to be least likely to have any skin irritations and skin rashes. You would rather err on the side of a low pH as opposed to a high pH. It's much better for your skin, for the spa, etc. But when you get below 7.0, be aware that now you may start eating into some of the metal in your spa, particularly the heater. So keep that in mind. Alkalinity is incredibly important, and that is quite honestly an anchor for the pH. So if your alkalinity is too low, it will cause what's called pH bounce, and you won't be able to maintain a very stable pH. So your minimum for your pH is 60 parts per million. Ideal is somewhere between 80 and 100 parts per million, and then your maximum is going to be 180 parts per million. If you're up at 180 parts per million and you've been using dry acid to reduce your pH, you're probably in what's called alkalinity lock. And in this case, the only way to get out of it is you can use muriatic acid or you could drain and refill the spa. Your choice. Calcium. Calcium, basically, you're typically stuck with what comes out of the faucet. Your minimum level is about 100 parts per million. It's a little bit irrelevant because you're in a fiberglass spa and there is no place that the water can leach calcium out of in a fiberglass spa. Ideal is typically about 150 parts per million. And the reason this is because calcium is reverse soluble. So if you think about making sweet tea, you're going to heat your water up and you're going to dump your sugar in, and then you're going to cool it off. And it becomes a supersaturated solution, and fortunately, the sugar does not fall out. However, calcium is the opposite. So if you would like to dissolve calcium in water, you take the temperature of the water down cold and cold and cold, and then the calcium will dissolve a whole lot better. However, it will not be a supersaturated solution as you start heating it up. So you're going to find that the calcium will drop out, and some of it dropping out will have to do with your pH. Some of it will have to do with your total dissolved solids. And if by chance you have a salt spa, then the salt becomes a total dissolved solid, and that will limit the level of calcium that you will actually be able to dissolve in the water. So 150 is a really good level. Realistically, if you have salt and you're talking about 100-degree water, about the maximum calcium that you're going to be able to dissolve is 200 parts per million. So don't freak out if you have lower calcium. Maximum that you're going to see is probably about 500 parts per million. After that, you're going to start dropping out calcium, and it'll be, as we hear, snowing in my spa, and you'll see the flakes on the bottom. That is not good for your heater. It's not good for your pipes because it'll calcify up in your pipes. And if you happen to lower the pH with calcium sitting at the bottom, it will also calcify onto the fiberglass. This is equivalent to taking a frying pan, putting a bunch of sugar in it, heating the frying pan up, the sugar will melt, and then you turn the heat off, and the sugar just forms, a very hard, crusty, difficult to remove on the bottom of the frying pan. And calcium will do the same thing in your spa, and even worse if you happen to be a spa or a pool that has a plaster surface associated with it. Cyanuric acid, the spa is covered. And so the reality is there is no need for cyanuric acid in a spa. However, if by chance you happen to be using powders or some of the scenting aroma stuff that they sell, that typically contains CYA. And in a spa, you do not want to go over 50 parts per million. This water's hot. You're going to have to start having problems with metals dropping out. You're going to have all types of issues with algae and mold, etc. So if you start seeing that CYA level creeping up because of the aroma stuff that you're using, then you are going to have to drain and refill the spa. You really do not have another option. Okay, temperature. So there really is no minimum level. Of course, water freezes at 32, so it's got to be above that. But in the colleges and for what I refer to extreme athletes, a lot of them use what are called cold tubs. And the cold tubs are typically kept between 50 and 55 degrees. The purpose of this is after an intense workout, i.e., maybe you're running a marathon or you're having a major soccer game, anything that really, really causes your muscles to work extremely hard, you're going to go into this hot tub to help prevent swelling, and it helps heal your muscles. If you know that you ever get like a pulled muscle or something like that, or your muscles hurt, they tell you to ice it for the first 24 to 48 hours. So that's the whole purpose of the cold tubs. The ideal temperature is really your personal preference. I think most guys like it about 99, and most women like it about 102. So that is personal preference, but there is a maximum temperature by most state laws at 104, and your spa will not heat over to 104 because there's a limit in the spa to do that. It is a federal requirement on all heaters for pools and spas to limit them to 104 degrees. So that is your spa water chemistry guidelines. This is a spa water chemistry adjustment guide. We also have the PDF of this on our website that you can then download and either print out, keep on your phone for convenient use. Be aware that this is for a typical spa of 500 gallons. So yours may be a little bit larger, it may be a little bit smaller, and so you may want to change the amount of dosage based on the size of your spa. There are spas that are 1,000 gallons, and there's swim spas that are even more. So keep that in mind. So most importantly, if you're going to want to increase your chlorine, I strongly recommend that you use liquid chlorine. Do not use tabs, whether they are the regular chlorine tabs or bromine tabs. They have a lot of bad side effects, and you'll wind up having to drain your spa a lot more frequently. So liquid chlorine is the safest, it's easiest, no nasty byproducts, etc. And you're only going to need about 2 ounces to go up 10 parts per million. And if you put in 2 ounces, that chlorine is going to last you an entire week, typically, in your spa. 10 parts per million of chlorine is as high as you actually want the chlorine to go. So if you're looking to get a 5 part per million increase, you're only going to go up, use 1 ounce of liquid chlorine. If you want to increase your alkalinity, the easiest and safest thing to do is use baking soda. It doesn't take much. All you need is 5 tablespoons, and that's going to increase your alkalinity by 80 parts per million, which is quite a bit. So again, based on your test results, you may want to cut this in half because you're alkalinity should be between 80 parts per million and 120 parts per million. This is also going to increase your pH. To decrease your alkalinity, I recommend that you use muriatic acid. And this is very strong. So here we go. We're going to use about 1.5 ounces to go and decrease my alkalinity by 10 parts per million. This is also going to decrease your pH. In the spa chemical world, they make an increase pH, and so you're going to look for a spa pH increaser. Again, very potent, so you only need 5 teaspoons of this, and that's going to change your pH by 0.4. Now, keep in mind this is a logarithmic scale, so that means in this case, going from a 7 to an 8 is a 10, not a 1. And 0.4, if you're at a pH of 7.0, that would give you a 7.4, and consequently that would be an ideal pH for the pool. Always check the dosage on the bottle, make sure that you're going to use the correct amount. If you want to decrease your pH, I recommend you get the Spa pH decreaser. And again, not much. You're talking 1 teaspoon to drop it 0.4. And example is if you had a pH of 7.8, then that would drop you to 7.4 again, which is ideal. So you are going to have to get your test results before you make adjustments. You can't just look at the water and say, oh, it looks good, or this smells good, or whatever. Make sure that you either take a water sample to your local pool store and preferably buy your chemicals from them, and or you get a good quality test strip such as the Accu-Chek 7 and use that as far as making your adjustments. Again, I can't stress enough that it does not take much to actually change things in a spa. It's a very small body of water. Most of these chemicals are really based on pool, and if you look in the CPO guide, most of this stuff is based on 10,000 gallons for dosage. So that is how you make your water chemistry adjustments in your spa. If you are in doubt, make smaller adjustments. You can always make another adjustment if they're small. Otherwise, you're going to be bouncing your spa water chemistry all over the place. If your spa water chemistry is way out of whack, then I strongly recommend that you just drain it, clean it, and refill it. I mean, in the CPO world, there is something that says the solution to pollution is dilution. So, i.e., if you're way out of whack, chances are your water chemistry coming out of your tap is reasonably close to where you need it to be.
Okay, so when you do drain your spa, we do have a video on how to drain, clean, and refill your spa. We recommend that when you do that, you also change out your filters and do a few other things. And all that is detailed in the actual video. When you're filling the spa, you want to use a good filter on top of what you've got, especially even if you have city water. I tend to like this metal trap. It doesn't necessarily trap all the metals as it says. It's only going to trap the metals that are particulates in the water. If it's a fabric of the water, it's not going to remove them, but that shouldn't be that big of an issue to you. But it will definitely filter out all of the stuff from your tap water. So like if you were to fill your glass up from your refrigerator, which has a filter on it, sometimes you'll find that the water's cloudy and it'll settle out and you'll see a little bit of stuff in the bottom of the cup. That is what you're trying to get out before it actually goes into the spa. If you have a pool nearby, I would highly recommend filling it out of the pool once the pool is balanced, because that way you know that you've got the pure water, it's balanced, everything's the way that it should be. But if you're filling it out of the tap, definitely want to check and get yourself a good filter to filter things out. Okay, so that is the basics of what you want to look for. Now, in the standpoint of managing your water chemistry, you want to have the complete arsenal of items. So we're going to start over here, and I highly recommend that you only use liquid shock in your pool. I would strongly recommend using any type of tabs, whether they be chlorine tabs or bromine tabs, because they do have cyanuric acid in them. That does build up rather quickly, especially in a spa. It will drop your pH and your alkalinity, and the spa will kind of get out of control very fast. So you don't need a whole lot of chlorine. I would say once you get out of the spa, you want to take a couple, I'll call them splashes, of chlorine into the spa. And when I say a splash, I'm talking about 2 to 4 ounces. And that's all you're going to need after you get out of the spa to keep it fine for a week. And then you go and you test it. You have to remember, this is under a cover. It's not going to be losing chlorine. So it's not like a pool where you're kind of always replenishing the chlorine because it's burning off. So definitely liquid shock. You'll be happy. It'll be much, much easier to maintain your water chemistry using that. And there's really no byproducts in it like there is in tabs. Now, a lot of people like to make their spa smell pretty. I'm one of those guilty people, and this one actually is called Island Pleasures, and it smells like a pina colada. So it's great. You know, you get out and you smell like a pina colada, and it makes you kind of thirsty, and then you want to go have one. So this, however, has CYA in it, and therefore it's going to raise your cyanuric acid. So be careful how much you're actually using that. Okay, so now we want to be able to take our pH down and our pH up. So pH down is an acid in reality, and what this acid does is this acid, if you use it extensively, will actually cause what's called alkalinity lock. So this acid will work for a little while, it'll cause alkalinity lock, it'll stop working, and then you're going to have to break that alkalinity lock either by draining the spa and refilling it, or you can use muriatic acid. pH up is soda ash, which is what we use in pools, and the instructions on how much you should use are on the back of these bottles. So definitely follow that. You do need to know how much you have to go up or how much you need to go down as far as pH. Next is you have your alkalinity. Well, if your alkalinity is low, you're going to go to the grocery store and get yourself some baking soda. And this is more than enough to raise the pH, the alkalinity of this spa. So you don't need a huge box. I probably would get the next size up just so that I have it on hand. A lot of people have baking soda in their house for, of course, baking purposes. And the trick here is with a spa is you're doing things in very small increments. You don't want to overdose because then correcting it is a nightmare. So be aware that you're not going to even use this whole container of baking soda. Next, we have muriatic acid. And this you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. This is extremely strong. This is extremely caustic. You do not want to keep this inside. You want to find someplace safe outside to keep this, because this will actually outgas even through a seal, through the cap, through everything. And if you have it inside, it is going to eat away and corrode your metal. so keep it outside. And if you have to lower your alkalinity, you're using a splash of this. So again, very small increments. You know, you're talking maybe 2 ounces of muriatic acid. It's a very small amount. And then go back, let it settle for a few hours, go back and test it. If you need to go down, then splash it again. So very, very important. Okay, I like Pool Perfect. Pool Perfect is actually an enzyme, and this helps eliminate the bio waste, kind of keeps your pool, your spa and pool fresh and clean. And with this in there, you will significantly reduce, as I call it, the scum line. The line that comes around the top of the spa after you've been in it and you've been running the jets and the aerators, and you'll see this line around the top, and that's bio waste in reality. So this helps eliminate it, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to maintain your water chemistry in your spa. Again, we're talking splashes. And so if you look at the back of this bottle, it tells you, you know, how to dose 10,000 gallons. So imagine that, and this spa is probably less than 500 gallons. Next is you have defoamer. Defoamer is, of course, self-explanatory. If you happen to turn your jets on and you're getting air and everything and it's foaming up, you're going to use the defoamer. And again, on the back of the bottle is going to tell you how much you're going to use. Now, all of these chemicals are available at your local spa retailer and your pool stores. So I would highly recommend that you go to the pool stores, you go to the local spa stores, and get your chemicals from them. I mean, they're going to be good quality chemicals. If you buy them from a box store, there is no guarantee that the quality of those chemicals is going to be where you expect it to be. And they tend to cause more issues than anything else. Leslie's, while it is technically a pool store, is more like a box store because they buy things in huge volumes and they have their own name brand stuff, which is not what I'll call standard chemicals. So I'd be cautious of that, but they do have Spin Labs, and if you're going with a name brand chemical that they have off their shelf, hallelujah baby, go for it. But taking care of a spa is very, very easy. Most times, the only thing you're really going to have to do once this is balanced is add a little bit of chlorine shock in it. And the beauty of shock is it's higher pH, and then when you get in the spa, your body is creating acid, which is bringing the pH and the alkalinity down, and so it kind of balances it out. And so as long as you watch your water chemistry, things will be really good. If it goes way out of whack, drain it and refill it. It's just not worth the effort, and it's not worth the pain. If you haven't drained it in a while, again, drain it and refill it. It's a whole bio waste thing. You want to be changing your filters, and that's really important in a particular spa. Now next is you're going to say, all right, how do I actually clean the spa? So these are rather inexpensive. This is a spa wand. This particular brand is Polaris. Polaris has been known for their quality for a lot of years. And in the commercial world, this is what we buy. You can buy cheap versions of this off of Amazon. We have found that they tend not to last, but we are using them under a commercial basis. You have different tips that you can put on the bottom of it, and this one basically what it allows you to do is you're going to submerge this into the water, and then you're going to pull up on this, and it's going to suck the water and the dirt in. You find your next spot, suck it up, so you're constantly just coming up and down. And then after you use it, you take it apart, and you see there's a little filter in here, so you can take this apart and you can clean your filter, get all the debris out of it, and that is a spa wand. These have been used for a lot of years, and they are very effective, and they are rather inexpensive in comparison. So just keep that in mind. Next is my preference, which is what they call a pool blaster. And important is another thing, that if you get the original, the WaterTech version of it, or the WaterTech brand, it's going to be spectacular. They make a good product, it's quality, it's going to last, the batteries are great. But if you go on Amazon and you buy the cheap look-alike, you're going to be very, very disappointed. You can actually put a pole on here, and of course this is fully submersible. There's a red, on this one there's a red button on the back to turn it on, and you can take this portion off. So you can take this apart, you can pull this front piece out, and now you can get into the corners with this a whole lot easier. We encourage people with pools to buy these, and this happens to be the commercial version of it, which is a little bit more robust. But if you got little kids, it kind of makes it a game. They love to go around in the pool or even the spa and clean the bottom of the spa. And this, like the spa wand, has a cartridge that comes out, and that's your filter. You would of course take it, wash it out, and put it back. And they do have different levels of filtering. So if you've got super fine stuff, they have a super fine one. This is kind of the standard one, which is going to take most of the debris and the sand out of it. So that is the extent of, as I call it, the Pool Buster. A great product. If you have a spa, you're definitely going to want to get one of these. It definitely supersedes the old school pool wand. But the pool wand does work. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, give us a thumbs up and follow us. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.